Hey there. So today I want to talk a little bit about this quote from Joe Kunez. But before I get to it, I want to talk about consumer psyche, really, when you get down to it. And I want to talk about pros out there, this idea of toxic fandom, and trying to point the finger at consumers while expecting them to stay. Now, for myself, I have always been interested in industrial psychology, to the point that I did a thesis paper on it for undergraduate work. Now, if you don't know what consumer psychology or industrial psychology is, that's basically how to get consumers to come to the table and spend money. What colors invite them in? What shapes? What cultivates a positive experience? That stuff has been studied for a long time. I mean, you have L. Frank Baum, the guy who wrote The Wizard of Oz. He also wrote this other thing that was pretty much a game changer, wherein he talked about the storefront window. Back in the day, way back, people used that storefront for storage. And he said, hey, let's put glass in it. Doesn't that sound like a great experience? Now, from there, we see tens of millions of dollars spent every year by companies like, say, Coca-Cola, that are out there trying to garner your money. Disney puts in a lot of money when it comes to going out and cultivating certain personas behind products. That's why I talk about things like Black Panther, like I do, for example. It has nothing to do with the movie for me, but rather the image cultivated around that movie. It showcases the mindset of the people thinking they're going to make money off of it. See, when you buy into advertisement, when you buy into the buzzwords, you have to understand that you're just buying into a marketing campaign. Those things, pro or con, if you feel like they stick to your identity, well, that's because they're trying to build the better pitch. Now, I saw that made manifest the other day. I saw a positive and a negative. The negative was actually built around comic books, and the positives, well, before I went to buy comic books, I went to buy myself a suit. See, I had to go to a conference weeks ago, and before I went, I decided I would go and I would get some clothing that expressed this idea that I myself am a professional. We want to cultivate image within that. Now, when I went out, I bypassed a lot of shops, and I noticed this one singularity within all of those stores. They all tried to bring consumers in with something, glitter and glamour or gloss. They would have advertisements outside or people trying to wave you in. Now, when I got into my destination, I was greeted with a warm smile. People tried to help me find the right clothing, and of course, they tried to push the best. You never try to push discount. You try to push the best thing out there. Only the best for our great customer whom we really love. Then, after I finished all of that up, feeling good about it, I decided I would go out and I would check out this comic book shop that was there. Now, when I went in, the first thing that I noticed is that the biggest name out there, Marvel Comics, what they had on the shelves, it wasn't inviting. The professionals, they weren't inviting. Every time I would look at them, I would know what they've said about consumers, and I wasn't interested. I mean, I didn't even have to go down the rabbit hole and look at the editors or look at the executives, like, say, editor-wise, Jordan D. White, or, say, the executives like Tom Brevoort. No, all I had to do was look at a lot of the professionals there. Also, when I'm looking at the quality of product, I think it's really telling about a place. When they tell me if I buy one of those, I can get some back stock from last year. Do I want a Secret Empire copy? Do I want Iceman or Squirrel Girl? Well, if I buy one of those, I can have 2 or maybe even 3 other ones for free. That's really telling there. Beyond that, though, going to other companies, I see Batman and I think, yeah, Batman. And then I see Busiek on it and I think, yeah, no, I don't want that. Because, Busiek, he likes to go out and make hyper-political statements. He likes to resist. But beyond that, he likes to call people Nazis, white supremacists, and on. Even the back stock, things that the local comic shop there would make mint on because they don't have to pay anyone else on it. Well, they had stuff by people like Jerry Conway. The trade paperbacks they had used. I wasn't really feeling that there because Even though I might have Dracula there, I also had the guy that wanted to call you alt-Rikers and beyond. It was interesting, too, because I'd had that experience before, where place wanted me to come in, and the comic shop itself was inviting enough. But the companies that want to sell me comics, the pros out there that are going and they're trying to sell them to me, even though they say they don't, the ones out there with their names on it, those people, they're not like the salespeople in other industries. They're the people that will go out and use words like toxic fandom. Now, when you look at this statement here, beginning a campaign to remake toxic fandom, who's with me? When I look at this guy here, this guy has been in the industry. He's worked with so many different companies since around, I think, 2007. And within that, I know that he's worked with quite a few professionals. But one professional, when I'm looking through some of the Marvel editions, I see, of course, America. And I think about the person that's represented with America. So this is an article by Bounding Into Comics. And as I've said many times, I feel like people need to be tuning into places like Bounding Into Comics and taking away views from places like Bleeding Cool, CBR, and other sources, because those places, they do not cover things like this. This is current year racism. That thing that masquerades as wokeness? Well, you have Gabby Rivera. Again, when we're talking about America, you can see that name made manifest here. So that's the person that we see worked with here, espousing anti-white racism, because current year is so fun. So you can see this first one here. Imagine black dudes put in this, or black females put in it, or anyone else besides white dudes. Anyone else felt triggered as fuck at the mere sight or presence of white dudes solo, but especially in groups. The panic and threat level is too real. Can you imagine saying that and still thinking that you're going to have a job anywhere else after saying that about any other group? No, but yep, it's okay here when we talk about that. Continuing here, it talks about the Latinos there. Talking about, I'm tired of family members and Latinx folks in the media defending whiteness and police and Trump. I like how it's A-okay within the Marvel echelon to go out and dump on the very people that keep your businesses running, that keep all of the laws in place that allow you to make money, that go out and keep people from stealing your products and on. I like how you would have this expectation of those people being on your side. And yet, you get to still dump on them and malign on them. Just like Trump here. A very interesting thing about Disney, by the way, with Trump. Did you know that Disney made more money because of the Trump tax cuts than they will because of parks and resorts this year? They will see $13 to $19 billion a year within parks and resorts. They saw something to the effect of $88 billion as far as tax cuts are involved. So, when they're talking about Trump, well, they really reap the financial whirlwind there. I'd like to see them throw that back into the coffer, go and give that back to the consumer. But of course, that's not going to happen. Continuing here. Nope. How are you going to service up to the lions? Yeah, you still feel really, really oppressed in this stuff too. I mean, when I see people go and take to social media, say things like this, like they're literally being threatened within that, they feel that it's A-okay to go out and espouse racism, to go out and call out the police, and to call out someone within government, and then to say, oh, you're feeding us to the lions, boys. How dare you do that? Here we have some stuff about mixed race relationships. I like that here. It's fucked, and don't even get me started on Latinxes who marry or date white, that's what YT there is, folks, and act like white privilege is their fucking birthright or blessing. I love J-Lo and Ricky Martin for speaking up on PR, but where were they when Sandra Bland was murdered or when Trump called a Muslim ban? Then considering here, too, talking about hacking and whatnot. Hackers ain't shit. If they were, they'd already liquidated the assets of the 1%, and this entire 45 administration had redistributed every penny to the rest of us. Do your jobs. There you go, blatantly. You know, the 1%. Who is part of the 1%? Oh, a lot of the people at the head of the very company that has hired this person and allows them to go out and to actively attack people because, hey, it's A-okay as long as they point the finger politically in a different direction. I'm amazed by that, too. You know, these people out there, they talk about socialism and they talk about all of these other terrible factors while also promoting capitalism because, hey, buy my product, otherwise I don't have a job, of course. So you see just a few examples of what this person has brought to the table. And you can imagine some of the other things that people that Joe here has worked with. I mean, if we're talking about, say, exiles, for example, remember exiles? One of the things that I find really telling within that is we have someone accuse Corn Pops of being racist. So Kellogg's is updating its boxes. I'm sure you saw this picture here. And oh no, he said that this was a black guy. Yep, you can see that's the person that's represented here. So, you know, fandom, we're toxic to the point, but, you know, you have a guy here. Everyone else is lazing about, doing nothing. This guy's actually working for a living, actually doing a good job, actually cleaning up the mess all of these others have set up. But, of course, somehow that's racism because Corn Pops. I mean, I'm amazed by that. But then again, this guy has so many other things to say outside of that. You know, I guess I'd find the concept of sensitivity readers more objectionable if the entire publishing industry wasn't centered all around always making sure white sensitivities are meticulously catered to. Yep, you make statements about race. You make statements about gender. You make statements about everything else like religion and on, but of course, it's toxic fandom that needs to be remade there. Considering here, let's continue. New fans. Now, I find that language there very interesting because fan implies that all you do is sit around or like or dislike something. You know, comic books is pay to play. You know, if I'm going out and I want to keep up with those certain personas out there, well, I have to pay to do so. No one is out there giving it away for free. So when you talk about that, this is not respectful of people that are going out to pay. Neither are these first 2 points here. Respect artistic integrity. Realize not all art is to be catered to their interest. When you're talking about, first of all, commercial endeavors, you're not making art for art's sake. You're going out and you're creating comic books. You're asking people to go out to reach into their pockets and to pay anywhere from $3 to $10 a pop to do so. Now, this person represents a Marvel and a DC out there. They're talking about characters that typify the superhero experience. They've been out there forever. So when they make points like not only these, but later on when they talk about delights in their preconceptions being challenged, is unafraid of or welcomes growth, what they're saying is you'll personally take on anything that people want to lump in out there. You'll go out, you'll buy it, and you won't say anything about it if you have problems. Because if you have problems out there, well, you don't respect women. You're threatened by women and also people of color. And, well, if you say anything out there, you're insufferable. I mean, imagine the language within that. Imagine calling someone insufferable with any other industry. Imagine going to a restaurant and someone calling you that. Would you expect someone to have a job afterwards because, say, you complained about the condition of a burger that came out, or say the person that brought it out there called you a Nazi or something? Would you expect them to have a job in the morning? But in comic books, that is par for the course. Insufferable. Too extreme to bear, intolerable, having or showing unbearable arrogance or conceit. These people have Comic-Cons built to their egos, wherein they feel like they can make statements like this. And you're supposed to go out there and march lockstep with it, and you're not supposed to say anything. Just throw out your money time and again, or don't like it, don't buy it. But of course, you can't say anything about why you don't buy it, because when you talk about that, you're not talking about creators. Say the quality of a comic book goes down. Well, you're not talking about the quality of that comic book. You're not talking about the artist. Apparently, in this day and age, you're attacking a female, or you're attacking a trans creator, or you're attacking a person of color. That's where we are. That's where things have gone. And we're talking about this challenge to preconception and whatnot, too. I have to thank a live stream for coming up with a good example. They were talking about storms. So in this day and age, where we go out and basically when we're challenging preconception, that means that we might change the identity of a character, or we might change their race out. How about we take Storm and we make Storm a blonde-haired, blue-eyed male? Now, that male could be bisexual within the mix. We'll get a female person of color to write that, too. Doesn't that sound great? Now, for myself, that sounds like a flaming trash heap, and I'm sure that these people there would agree with that. However, when you go out and you change up other established characters and you promote them as not only stereotypes, but ones that read like, say, Iceman, like a homophobic stereotype, or you have other ones that blatantly go out and they take to the pulpit within a comic book and they like to disparage and malign people that buy comics. You know, they talk about everything from mayo to racism and bigotry. They like to point that ugly loaded index finger and say, well, you know who I'm talking to. Why would you want to buy that? This idea, too, of fan replacement, it's been shopped around for a while because Marvel said at one time that they didn't like the fan that they had. That fandom out there, well, it wasn't diverse enough. Not only is that an insult when you get down to it, because they're saying there you're going to be judged on race and you're going to be judged on gender. Oh, sure, you pay to play, but you know what? You aren't welcome there because you don't bring enough that criteria that they're hoping to cater to. That insult is met with a continued insult that reads just like this. Like I say, really go over that. Really think about what that's saying. Think about this little lecture here and think about whether or not you want to support that. Because I find that to be ridiculous. I mean, when they're talking to, when you see all these people that have sounded off on it so far, I mean, you see exactly how that's represented. Oh yeah, which fandom are you talking about? Because so many of them are terrible in this day and age. Yep, that might resonate when you're talking to people on Twitter. That might actually get you a bunch of likes on that, but going in and thinking that the currency of Twitter likes, it actually is going to correspond with literal currency where you can go and have some exchange rate, well, that's a baffling concept because you know what? You've gone out and you've lost a lot of people's support with stupid statements like this. But then again, I want to know people like this. I want to see them for who they are. John Malin really made me think about that because at one time I could never understood why the companies behind this stuff, why they wouldn't step in and say something. You know, I always thought they should, but I don't want them to because I want to see the people for who they are. That way, the people that are worth backing, the ones that don't place value judgments on me, well, I know who they are. Just like I know people like this that will come out and say, well, if you have a problem with comic books, you don't have a problem with a comic. You actually are out there and you don't respect women, or you feel threatened by women and people of color. Anyhow, so tell me what you think about this stuff. I find it beyond absurd when I see it personally, and it just stacks on to insult after insult after insult, which seems to be par for the course as far as comic books are concerned. Funny too, because the people, when they get blowback for it, they always talk about those terrible white males that do it. They talk about politics or on, trying to divert away from their terrible behavior, like it's not not reprehensible enough that you went out there and you said something like this, but then to go and to double down and to try to not fix it, well, that just shows exactly where comic books are and where I personally don't want to be. But anyhow, tell me what you think about that. Thank you.